Hello all and welcome to TVM Academy. This is CAT VRC 100 series, a free practice course for CAT bubble section. Let's look at RC number 11. The link as usual was shared on the Telegram group. It was also sent to your registered email IDs. Okay. So nice read, challenging read response. A quick synopsis of the passage first. In the first paragraph, author tells you that there has recently been a shift in historians' point of view about the process of assimilation of different ethnic groups in the United States culture. Earlier, these historians thought that different ethnic cultures blended to form the American culture, American character. Now they think that there was a transplantation of cultures. So the ethnic communities brought their culture with them when they migrated to the United States. And in the last line of this paragraph, author states that this approach is problematic. So the summary of this first paragraph is that the shift in historians' viewpoint about the assimilation process in the United States is problematic. The shift in their viewpoint is problematic. In the second paragraph, author discusses an example. Fujita and O'Brien argue that Japanese Americans assimilated the American culture, and though their ethnic identity endured, so they had a strong sense of ethnic identity, it did get weakened over generations. So that's what they argue. Then in the third paragraph, the same people try to identify factors behind a strong sense of ethnicity or ethnic bond, ethnic cohesion between within Japanese Americans, and they argue that there was a sense of peoplehood, there was a sense of community bonding between Japanese Americans, which kept them together, and it was unique to Japanese American community. However, in the last paragraph, author rejects their analysis, and he states that the sense of peoplehood was not unique to Japanese Americans. Many other ethnic communities also had the same sense of peoplehood. Therefore, historians must try to identify other factors which were responsible for the sense of community cohesion within Japanese American communities. There must be some other factors which were responsible. Now, please note, author starts with the point that the new historical approach is problematic, and he ends with the point that this approach is problematic. Fujita and O'Brien's analysis is wrong, flawed, and other factors must be identified. These are not the correct factors. Sense of peoplehood is not the correct factor. With this understanding, we can answer the questions now. Question number 1, main idea of the passage. Okay, option A. Fujita and O'Brien's study provides a comparison of degree of involvement in ethnic community of different groups in the United States. Fujita and O'Brien's study is narrow in scope, and it is only limited to Japanese Americans and not different groups in the United States. So option A is factually incorrect. It is too broad. Option B, Fujita and O'Brien's study describes the assimilation of 3 generations of Japanese Americans to the United States culture. Though factually correct, it is a narrow answer choice, because the main point of the passage is not that Fujita and O'Brien's study describes something. It is that Fujita and O'Brien's study is flawed. Author passes a judgment on their study rather than merely tell us what the study describes. So the author's judgment, the last part, which is also the conclusion and the main idea, therefore, conclusion, main idea. So author's judgment is not covered in option B. It merely tells us what Fujita and O'Brien's study is all about, and not the fact that, according to the author, this study is flawed. Okay. Option C, Fujita and O'Brien's study illustrates both a recent trend in historical studies of ethnic groups in United States, and also a problem typical of that trend. Okay. So this option captures the idea, main idea, that Fujita and O'Brien study is problematic. It is an example of the problem that is inherent to the new historical approach. Historical studies of ethnic preservation among Japanese Americans have done much to define the interpretive frameworks for studies of other ethnic groups. Two problems in this answer choice. First is that the tone of this answer choice becomes positive. Historical studies have done much. However, author's tone is negative. He's not happy with these historical studies. So contradictory tone. Second problem, author has never proposed that the results obtained on these historical studies on Japanese Americans be extrapolated to other ethnic groups. The results obtained should be used for analysis of other ethnic groups. This kind of suggestion was never made by the author. So alien idea. Question number 2. Fujita and O'Brien's data indicate which one of the following about Japanese American ethnic community. Okay. The point about their data was mentioned here. Their data revealed that the character of ethnic community itself changed. Okay. The integration of Sanzis into new professional communities and non-ethnic voluntary associations meant that ethnic ties had to accommodate multiple and layered identities. Fujita and O'Brien themselves acknowledged that there has been some weakening of Japanese American ethnic community life. Now, please note, what is the point made here? That their data revealed that the character of ethnic community itself changed when these Japanese Americans started entering professional communities. So as they became part of professional organizations, professional communities, and some non-voluntary, some non-ethnic voluntary organizations, the ethnic ties weakened or the character of their ethnic life changed. That's what the point is. Okay. Option A, community bonds have weakened primarily as a result of occupational mobility by Japanese Americans. I have a problem with this word primarily. This was not mentioned as a primary factor anywhere, so I probably extreme modifier. Let's look at other options first. The community is notable because it has accommodated multiple and layered identities without losing its traditional intensity. Now wait, has it not lost its traditional intensity at all? Its initial intensity did actually decrease. In fact, here also, there was a weakening of ethnic community life. So to say that their intensity did not lose is contradictory to what passage tells us. Community cohesion is similar in intensity to the community cohesion of other ethnic groups. Again, something contradictory to the passage, because it was mentioned that the sense of community cohesion surpasses that found in other ethnic groups. That is what makes Japanese American community special. So this is contradictory. It's not similar, it surpasses. It's more than that, more than other ethnic groups. The nature of community has been altered by Japanese American participation in new professional communities, correct? It was written that the nature of their community changed. So it has been altered by their participation in new professional communities and non-ethnic voluntary associations. Option D should be the correct answer. Okay. Question number 3. Which of the following provides an example of a research study that has conclusion most analogous to that argued for by the historians mentioned in line 4? So in the passage, it must be line 4. Here in the PPT, it is line number 2. Earlier historians argued that ethnic identity of various immigrant groups to the United States blended to form an American national character. So different ethnic groups, their cultures, their ethnic identity blended to form an American cultural identity, American national character. That's what their argument was. The option similar to this is option C, a study showing how architectural styles brought from other countries have merged to form an American style. So blend, the idea of blending is there in option C. Option A says a study showing how musical forms brought from other countries have persisted in the United States. This will be the new scholarship and not the historians' point of view. This is new historians or new studies or new point of view. Okay. A study showing how cultural traditions have been preserved for generations in American ethnic neighborhoods. Again, the preservation of ethnicity would be similar to transplantation, the idea of transplantation of ethnic cultures rather than the blending of different ethnic groups. So this is also the new viewpoint rather than the old viewpoint. And the question is about historians' viewpoint, which is the old one. Okay. As their views are discussed in the passage, Fujita and O'Brien would be most likely to agree with which of the following. Okay, let's see. A lot of things have been said about these two people. We'll have to deal with options one by one. Option A, the community cohesion of an ethnic group is not affected by the length of time it has been in the United States. Now wait. Or these people did argue that they have concluded that assimilation to the United States culture increased among Japanese Americans over 3 generations, which means time is an important factor. According to them, the community cohesion of an ethnic group is affected by the length of time that they have spent in the United States. So this is contradictory to their viewpoint or to their conclusion. An ethnic group in the United States can have a high degree of adaptation to the United States culture and still sustain strong community ties. Exactly what their argument was about the Japanese Americans. So their sense of ethnic community endured. Though they adapted, though they assimilated to the United States culture, their own culture also endured. Their sense of ethnic community endured. That's what the argument was. So option B should be the correct answer. The strength of an ethnic community in the United States is primarily, okay, dependent on the strength of local and family ties. Again, extreme modifier. No such argument was given in the passage. It does not primarily depend on the strength of local and family ties. High levels of education and occupational mobility necessarily erode the community cohesion of an ethnic group in the United States. Now, this was true only for Japanese Americans. This was true only of Japanese Americans. It was mentioned that their occupational mobility and their high levels of education it did weaken the ethnic community life of Japanese Americans. But this is true only for one particular community. We cannot generalize the whole idea. So we cannot argue that this is true necessarily for any ethnic group. So again, extreme modifier. Extreme modifier. So option B is the correct answer. According to Fujita and O'Brien, the Japanese sustained community cohesion despite all of the following except. So all of the following were factors against the community cohesion, but which one was not? Option A sense of national consciousness or peoplehood. Now, please note, it is because of the sense of peoplehood that they maintained, that they sustained their community cohesion. It is because of this factor rather than despite this factor. So this despite makes option A incorrect. Option A is the correct answer, therefore, because the question says except. So this was not despite, this was because of this factor. Increased participation in educational and professional activities. Yes, this happened. Despite this, they were able to maintain strong community ties. Diversity of American society. Yes, mentioned. Pluralism. They have been exposed to pluralism. Despite that fact, they were able to sustain community cohesion. Right? So this is also a factor. Interaction with non-ethnic organizations. We read this. So yes, this was also a factor. And despite this factor, they were able to maintain their community cohesion. Option A is the correct answer. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. It was a really nice read. Keep practicing, keep learning. Cheers to learning. Keep liking the videos and keep spreading word about TVM Academy. Thank you very much. All the best.